In the heart of the rustic countryside, my grandparents' house stood, a relic of forgotten times. This quaint old dwelling, shrouded in a veil of nostalgia, was a place where my childhood memories danced around every corner. Then, one day, an ornate letter arrived, its handwriting as familiar as the scent of Grandma's apple pie. It was an invitation, a call to return to the homestead that had once been a sanctuary of warmth and laughter. With fond memories of summer afternoons and winter evenings spent there, I decided to revisit this haven of my youth. I imagined the creak of the wooden floors, the crackle of the fireplace, the whispers of the wind through the gnarled trees. How could I resist such a charming summons? Yet, beneath the allure of nostalgia, something sinister lurked. Little did I know, the house harbored secrets as old as its creaking timbers. As I stepped onto the porch, the house seemed to groan in greeting, a chill wind whispering past. The house stood there, a testament to a bygone era, steeped in stories and secrets. Its old creaky bones seemed to echo the whispers of the past, resonating with an eerie familiarity. Paint peeled from the weather-beaten walls, and the windows stared out like vacant eyes, reflecting the gloom of the overcast sky. There was an unsettling quietness about the place, a silence that seemed almost unnatural. A rational part of me dismissed the ominous feeling, attributing it to the sheer age of the house. Old houses have their quirks, I told myself. They creak, they moan, they breathe, just like everything else that's been around for a while. It was easy to imagine that the house was merely murmuring tales of the past, whispering the stories etched into its old wooden bones. I spent the day exploring the house, wandering through its dimly lit hallways and musty rooms. The house was unchanged, frozen in time, as if my grandparents had just stepped out and would return any moment. Yet the silence was pervasive, a heavy blanket that seemed to muffle even the faintest sound. I found myself straining to hear anything other than the house's slow, rhythmic creaking. The ticking of a forgotten clock, the rustling of leaves outside, even my own footsteps seemed muted, swallowed by the oppressive quiet. The house was as silent as a crypt, its stillness only broken by the occasional gust of wind that made the old structure shudder. The day passed in a blur, the evening sun casting long, foreboding shadows that danced across the faded wallpaper. I retired to the old guest room, the same room where I used to sleep as a child during visits. Its familiarity was comforting amidst the strangeness, a beacon of warmth in the chilling quiet. That night, as I drifted off to sleep, the house began to whisper its dark secrets. In the dead of night, the echoes of the past began to stir. My slumber was broken by a peculiar sound, as though whispers were dancing through the old house's wooden bones. Rising from the warmth of my bed, curiosity piqued. I found myself drawn into the cold, shadowy halls of my grandparents' home. The house was asleep, yet it felt alive, as if it breathed with the rhythm of a hidden heartbeat. With each step I took, the wooden floorboards creaked beneath me, as if they were sharing the secrets of the home, secrets buried deep in the past. I listened, straining to make sense of the whispers that seemed to come from the walls themselves. But the house kept its secrets well, revealing only vague murmurs and sighs. And so I ventured on, a lone explorer in a world of shadows and whispers. Room to room I found nothing out of the ordinary. The furniture stood as it always did, draped in the cloak of darkness. The portraits of generations past stared back at me, their eyes following my every move, adding to the eeriness of the night. But the strange noises, they persisted. Each one was different, each one more unsettling than the last. A distant clang as if a pot had fallen in the kitchen, the soft rustling of paper like someone was flipping through the pages of an old book. A low hum, a tuneless melody that seemed to seep from the very air itself. As these disturbances continued, the night grew heavier, the darkness denser. The house, once a sanctuary of fond memories, now felt like a labyrinth, each corner hiding a new mystery, a new whisper of the past. The once familiar walls now seemed to close in, casting long, sinister shadows that danced in the dim moonlight. As dawn approached, I realized that the house was not as it seemed. The comforting memories of my childhood were now tainted with a sense of unease. The house, with its creaking floorboards and whispering walls, seemed to harbor a haunting secret, a chilling tale that was just beginning to unfold. With sunlight streaming through the dusty windows, I found myself drawn to the attic. It was as if the house itself was guiding me, leading me to uncover its secrets. The attic was like a forgotten world filled with relics of the past, a museum of lives lived and lost. In one corner, beneath a thick layer of dust and cobwebs, I discovered a collection of old family records, yellowed with age but still legible. As I began to delve into these records, the past unfurled before me like a movie reel, painting a picture far more chilling than any ghost story I've ever heard. These documents told a tale of my grandparents, a tale steeped in tragedy. They were not simply the warm and loving figures of my childhood memories. They were survivors, victims of a gruesome tragedy that had befallen them right here in this very house. The records revealed that once, many decades ago, they had a family, just like any other. They had children, laughter, and love. But one fateful night, their world was turned upside down. A tragic accident took away their children, leaving them alone and heartbroken. The details were fuzzy, but the pain was palpable. This house, the one I was standing in, had been the site of this tragedy. The walls, the floors, the attic where I now stood were all silent witnesses to this horrifying event. The laughter and joy that once filled these rooms were replaced by an all-consuming despair, a silence so profound it was deafening. As I stood there absorbing this shocking revelation, I felt a chill run down my spine. The happy memories of summers spent here were now tainted, replaced with a haunting image of what once was. The house was no longer just a house. It was a monument to a past filled with sorrow and heartache. The house was a silent witness to a tale of horror and despair. As the sun set on my final day, the house seemed to tighten its grip on me. The air hung heavy with anticipation, as if the very walls of the house were holding their breath. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway echoed through the silence, each second slipping away like sand through my trembling fingers. As the darkness grew, so did the unease. The portraits on the wall, those familiar faces of my grandparents, took on a ghastly pallor. Their painted eyes seemed to follow me, a spectral gaze that pierced through the gloom. The once comforting presence of my grandparents felt twisted now, their memory tainted by the horrifying events of the past few days. The house groaned and creaked as the night wore on. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on grotesque forms in the dim light. A cold breeze blew through the house, whispering unheard tales in my ears. The temperature dropped, the chill seeping into my bones. My heart pounded in my chest, the only sound louder than the deafening silence. Then, the apparition started. Transparent figures, faint yet unmistakable, moved through the rooms. My grandparents, or what was left of them, drifted aimlessly, their ethereal forms shimmering in the moonlight. It was as if the house was reliving its past, replaying the lives of those who had once inhabited its rooms. Fear gripped me, but so did a strange sense of sorrow. I was witnessing the remnants of my family's past, the echoes of their existence trapped within these walls. I felt an overwhelming urge to free them, to break the cycle of haunting that had ensnared this house. As the night wore on, my decision was made. I would leave at dawn. I would escape this haunted place, this house of lost souls. I would take with me the memories of my grandparents, untainted by the horror that their home had become. As the first light of dawn pierced the darkness, I fled from the house, leaving its haunting past behind. As the house receded in my rearview mirror, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. A shiver ran down my spine, a final goodbye from the ghosts of my ancestors. That old house, with its creaking floors and whispering walls, was no place for the living. I had stepped into a chilling story of my family's past, a narrative woven with tragedy and despair. I could still feel the cold tendrils of fear wrapping around my heart, a testament to the horrors I had witnessed. It was as though the house itself was a malevolent entity, a guardian of the sorrow that had befallen my lineage. It was a haunted relic, a grim reminder of a past marred by loss and pain. In the silence of the night, I made a solemn vow. I would never return. I would leave the ghosts to their eternal rest. As I drove away, I couldn't help but glance back at the house, a chilling monument to a past best forgotten.